Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Good, bad, crazy martinis for you today. I thought about making a joke about how difficult it was to initially get onto the Trump-Elon Musk interview yesterday. Eventually they got it going, and Elon now says they got 1 billion views, so that's pretty impressive. But we had our own issue with Apple Podcasts yesterday, so I probably shouldn't say a whole lot about that. But it's back up and running, so if you missed yesterday's episode, it's there and ready for you to hear it.
My favorite tweet of last night was a picture of, I did not do, it's a response to something I put up, Ron DeSantis smiling and just saying, first time.
Yeah, they stress tested at 8 million. I'm like, I think you're going to get more than that. You might want to stress that a little more. But hey, I am definitely not the IT expert. But let's jump into our good martini now. And this is an example of the media pointing out facts. We'll get to more about the media in our second martini. But last night, Bret Baier, Fox News special report, has on Dan Goldman. He is a New York Democratic congressman. You see him a lot in these contentious House hearings. I think he's trying to be the next Adam Schiff in defending Democrats and attacking Trump and all that kind of stuff in some of these hearings. And so the issue of debates comes up, and Goldman tries to pretend that Trump is afraid to debate Kamala Harris. And Baier corrects him with some of the things that have developed on the debate over the debates lately. And, well, this ensues.
If I'm Donald Trump, I understand why he doesn't want to debate. Kamala Harris is
he's accepted
former
3.
prosecutor.
He said yes to September 4th, September 10th, September 17th. He said yes to a lot of them. So it's not that he's obviously afraid to debate.
No. So no. He had agreed to September 10th on ABC.
With Biden, who got pushed out.
What's the difference? Why should he not debate whoever the candidate is on September 10th as he agreed to? What is the difference between candidate Biden and candidate
it's fine.
Harris?
He said he would do it. I'm just saying he's also agreed to other debates. You said he hasn't agreed to others. He has. It's the Kamala Harris campaign that hasn't agreed on the other side.
So in terms of confronting the narrative, and you said earlier in our podcast a few weeks ago that you thought it was a mistake for Trump to tentatively back out of the September 10th debate while the Democrats still officially figured out who their nominee was. It was clear it was going to be Harris by the time he did that. And so he shouldn't have backed out because he was going to need a debater anyway. So that might have been a misstep. But for Goldman to say that he's running scared when Trump is putting other debate options out there, and she's already nixed the Fox News option for September 4th, hasn't yet done that for the NBC debate later in September. It's obvious that people like Goldman don't get this kind of pushback on other networks because he was pretty flummoxed and flabbergasted to get that pushback from Bret Baier.
Yeah, first of all, really good for Bret Baier for I know it's generally you try not to interrupt your guests, but when they say something that's blatantly false, I think it's entirely called for. There are times when Donald Trump is not a great debater. I think his first debate against Biden last cycle did not go well. When he kept shouting over him and kind of trying to bulldoze over this. I have of the mindset that Joe Biden, when given the opportunity, gets himself in trouble. And I think we demonstrated it. So that was abundantly clear this cycle. I think Kamala Harris is very similar. So when Trump says anytime, anywhere, you really should have an attitude of, I will debate you anytime, anywhere. You want to do these once a week? Let's do these once a week. You want to do Lincoln Douglas? Let's do Lincoln Douglas. I will, any venue, any moderator. And now, are some moderators going to be not great? Yeah, but honestly, I think the opportunity to do damage by letting your opponents talk and let their mouths get them in trouble is worth it. Those are the things that will makes debates worthwhile for the point of view of a campaign. And as for the potential self-inflicted damage, look, Trump can do that, but I think honestly, the risk is greater to Harris, and I think you have to do that. Also, it's good for democracy. It's good for the voting public. You could, with Biden and Trump, you could say, yeah, everybody already knows what they think of these guys. Everybody knows how they feel about these guys. On the other hand, Biden went out there, and everybody expected him to be kind of old and doddering, but he was so bad that people who were on the Biden bandwagon jumped off, right? So that you never know, Harris could go out there and offer incoherent word salad and do some serious damage to herself. So Trump should automatically be accepting every opportunity. And when you say anytime, anywhere, you can't then go, well, only on this network and only with these moderators and stuff like that. But Harris, as far as we know, has only, first of all, Biden was, I'll even do it twice. No, you'll only do it twice. Traditionally, it's been 3 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate. There was a perfectly good system going back decades. I don't understand why all of a sudden we had to stop that. But you kind of understood, okay, Joe Biden's a geriatric old man. He's not going to be able to do all 3. Kamala Harris is a 59-year-old woman. No reason she can't do all 3. Why has she only agreed to 3? Trump should be emphasizing, I will do that. I will do these others. I think we should go at least the traditional schedule, if not more. So good for you, good for Bret, good for Fox News for not letting that attempt at spin go unheeded. And hopefully we see more than one debate between these two, because I think the American public definitely deserves it.
Like I said yesterday, I think if she thinks she wins it on September 10th, she'll probably
that'll be it.
Push to not have any more, because she's clearly trying to run out the clock without having to get specific here. And if you want to know what she needs to get specific about, read today's Morning Jolt. Jim has a ton of questions that the media should be asking given the opportunity. My other fear is, of course, that she's eventually going to allow an interview, or perhaps more, but she's going to allow them with people who won't ask the questions that you put in the Morning Jolt today. It's going to be more puff pieces about the resurgence and what do you think about this and the history you could make and all that kind of nonsense.
My suspicion is Rachel Maddow. Conceivably, like I guess 60 Minutes, Biden did a bunch of those, but even that might get a hard one or two. So yeah, and NBC or MSNBC would be my guess of the most likely choice for that. So we'll see how it shakes out. Also, like as of now, the debates are the only time she's scheduled to be questioned by anyone between now and election day. Just keep that in mind.
So it's a 90-minute debate, and 45 minutes will inevitably Trump. So she's like trying to limit it down to 45 minutes for the rest of the campaign. I don't think she's going to quite get away with that. But again, if there aren't actually serious questions, it doesn't matter how many interviews she agrees to. So we will see. But and we'll talk more about the media here in just a second. But in the meantime, artificial intelligence might be the most important new computer technology ever. It certainly has the potential to transform every industry, altering the way we work, live, and interact with the world. It's revolutionizing every industry with billions of dollars being invested. But how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? One way, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/martini.
It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI offers a complete range of cloud services to meet your needs, whether it's on-premises, hybrid, multi-cloud, or public. It's a global network and flexible options that will tackle your toughest business challenges. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. And OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds. It's all at one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing. And think about all the industry leaders that rely on Oracle. We're talking about companies like Zoom and Mazda and Toyota.
Now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. Do more and spend less like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic. Take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/martini. That's oracle.com/martini. Oracle.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our bad martini now. And this is actually pretty funny and in some ways reassuring that the American public, even an American public that in the audience of Stephen Colbert at the Late Show, which used to be funny once upon a time with David Letterman and so forth, is usually stacked with lefties because he's constantly bringing out lefty guests and they get rapturous applause and all that kind of stuff. Well, yesterday he had on Caitlin Collins, anchorwoman from CNN, and she was initially talking about how Trump still needs to find his footing in her estimation about how to go after Kamala, because he'd obviously planned to go after Joe Biden this campaign. And here's Colbert's follow-up and the reaction neither of them expected to get from the audience in the Ed Sullivan Theater.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. No, I know. CNN makes a... I know
Was that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
So, Jim, obviously that's not what Colbert intended. It's obviously not what Caitlin Collins wanted to hear, but it is what the American public, even people who lean to the left, think of CNN. And it's clear in survey after survey that they also think that very same way about the media at large. It's a problem. I mean, the founders envisioned a fourth estate to hold government leaders accountable in an objective and honest way. And obviously, reporters are going to have their own personal biases. But, you know, at one time, you could walk and chew gum. And the media just can't do that anymore. And I think the way they've responded to the end of the Biden campaign and cheerleading for it after that debate, and then basically creating him a modern day living saint after he finally got out. And then just this complete reimagination of Kamala Harris over the past few weeks is the perfect encapsulation. It's not just those issues. It's every issue, it seems like, with any sort of political tinge to it, Supreme Court decisions, what have you. The American people see it, and the media just don't care.
No, it's very funny and amusing, unintentionally funny and amusing.
Yes.
However, it shakes up. But I have a question. I don't think we know the answer to this. Is the demographic of Stephen Colbert live audience, is it locals, meaning New Yorkers, fairly young folks, hipsters, Brooklynite? I was into that band before you'd heard of them. Is that the crowd, or are they out of town tourists? And now, either way, it's bad news for CNN that they're a punchline and the people chuckled at the claim that they're objective. If it's out of towners, maybe they're from red states or purple states, and it's a little less surprising that they would laugh when CNN is described as objective. If the Brooklyn hipsters even think it's ridiculous for CNN, it's like that's really bad for them. That's the people who should be most likely to buy into this idea. So it's bad either way. I guess there's one way it could be a little less surprising than the other. The good Stephen Miller once described late night television as group therapy for liberals, that it's no longer the business of being funny. It's no longer it certainly isn't apolitical humor like Johnny Carson, where you could get he'd make fun of Republicans, he'd make fun of Democrats, and even Jay Leno for a long stretch was into that. And now is very much all the jokes are designed. Once in a while you'll see jokes about a Democratic president. If so, it's generally hitting them from the left. And it's only long after it's been abundantly clear that, Joe Biden is old. How old is he? His presidential motorcade once featured a Model T, that kind of, fairly safe, jokes there. I went back, and it was a couple of years ago, but I went and I looked at the guest list for Colbert night after night. And like every other night, you would see a Cory Booker or a Elizabeth Warren, like if the president agrees to be on your show, sure, they'll let you on. But like fairly, are people craving, ooh, Elizabeth Warren is on tonight. We got set the DVR, honey. The idea that, and like usually these shows, guests were, Hollywood stars, whoever's got a movie coming out on Friday, comedians. Once in a while, you'd get a news anchor, and it'd be kind of fun to see Tom Brokaw showing us wackier side or something. Or Brian Williams used to love doing that stuff, slow jamming the news. By and large, you didn't get that many elected officials, and when they did, they kind of tried to stay relatively nonpartisan. It's now turned into, the guest list is not all that distinguishable from that of the DNC, the Democratic National Conventions, and they're basically up there. And Colbert's question, like, what can we do about gun violence? Like it is straight up, softballs to let them do however they want. And I guess, people, like the amount of people who find that entertaining, significantly fewer. And so it's kind of interesting that even the out-of-town audience, like you reach the point, an audience that had been conditioned to think Democrats are the good guys and Republicans are the bad guys, CNN is objective, even that, was something too much for them to swallow, and that they laughed at. And you kind of have to feel for not just Colbert, but for the guests, who has to, like, was that intended to be a laugh line? That recognition, are we a punchline? Yeah, right now you are.
Yes, you are. And that's why Americans are going other places for their news, especially other places than CNN. But this wasn't the main topic. But I mean, late night is basically dead. I can't think of a time any recent year where I was like, I've got to check out Fallon or Colbert or Kimmel or any of these people, because they've all gone hardcore political ever since Trump got elected. Colbert, I think, just wants to be a political host, kind of like John Oliver, and it's all the Jon Stewartization of these Daily Show guys. And then other people felt like they had to follow along because they were conditioned to believe that there's this existential threat happening on a daily basis. But people want to unwind before they go to bed. They want to have a good laugh, and that's why Gutfeld on cable is smacking these guys around in the ratings, because people want to be entertained. And that's obviously political too. But I think what people enjoyed was Johnny Carson just being funny, taking pretty light jabs at people, and then just having fun and good night to everyone.
Yeah.
You know,
you wanted to hear Ed McMahon say, "Ha, you are correct, sir." And
Yes.
then somebody from the San Diego Zoo and the animal would pee on the couch, and it was hilarious. I'm gonna date us on this program, Greg, which is one of the things I do best. So I'm gonna say first, watching late high school and then into college. My college roommate was my best friend. We would when we heard Robin Williams was going to be on the Tonight Show. We're staying up. Usually it would be a Friday night, so it'd be easier to stay up. And Robin Williams would just go out and kill it. And it would be hilarious. And there'd be very rarely, Williams every once in a while would throw in a Reagan joke or a Bush joke or something like that. But it was pretty, And then secondly, Mel Gibson promoting one of the Lethal Weapon movies. And you just knew Lethal Weapon Mel Gibson was going to be funny, was going to be charming. They'd show a clip from the movie or something. And it was just like there were certain stars you're like, oh, okay, this is where we're staying up after the local news. Also, I'm pointing out, I'm just my late teens and early 20s. Maybe I had an easier time staying up back then. Greg, I just have a very hard time seeing people sitting at home. Oh, honey, Nancy Pelosi's on tonight. Come on, we gotta, come on, get the kids. Let them stay up for this. It's their politics. They give speeches all the time. What's all different from? Yeah. So anyway.
Late nights in big trouble, but then the place where people used to go for actual news, which was not late night monologues, is no longer believable as well, and that's a big problem. And there's some people feeding into that, and we'll talk about them in the third martini. But first, Lumen. Look, you have so many things in your life that make your life simpler. You got your weather app. You got so many things on your phone that just inform you immediately about what's going on, and it could not be simpler. Well, Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. Lumen is a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs, and then gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition for that day, plus workouts, sleep, and even stress management.
Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food that you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and even better sleep. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health too.
So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/3ml to get 15% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/3ml for 15% off your purchase. Again, that's lumen.me/3ml. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. So let's talk about one of the outfits that are definitely poisoning our politics. A bunch of disgruntled Republican consultants who became Democratic consultants but still insisted on labeling themselves as Republicans so they could get booked to talk about how, though, as Republicans, they're very disappointed with Republicans. That's the Lincoln Project. Rick Wilson, Stuart Stevens, at one time, people like Steve Schmidt, John Weaver, which they don't like to admit right now, Reed Galen, and a lot of other folks. But the recent filings from the Lincoln Project with the government tell a very interesting tale. According to the latest numbers, they have spent $437,000 on the 2024 presidential race and $11.7 million on overhead and other operating expenditures since January 2023. And in this latest statement, they have a total disbursement of a little more than $4.7 million, actually close to $4.8 million. And of that, more than $4.3 million is to other. Well, that's kind of interesting. So then in the comment section, it says, looks into where this money is going. It says, well, if you run outfits like Intrepid Media or Summit Strategic Communications, the Lincoln Project is a really big cash cow for you. I wonder who those firms belong to. And then the next tweet. For the cycle, that's $989,000 to Joe Trippi's firm. He's in the Lincoln Project. $664,000 to Rick Wilson's Intrepid Media, plus $106,000 to his son for corporate campaign management, quote unquote. $531,000 to Reed Galen's Summit Strategic, $410,000 to Stu Stevens' Message Mountain, and $372,000 to Terrasette Mayer's Veracity Reigns. All of those people either are or were affiliated in some way with the Lincoln Project. So, Jim, I mean, if there was a grifting Hall of Fame, my goodness, these people would be elected on the first ballot, probably unanimously.
Yes, put them up on the Mount Rushmore of grifters. Look, I mean, it's very easy to say, look at the Lincoln Project, how little they're spending on actual advertising, how much they're keeping for themselves, how much they're pocketing. Clearly, they're not very, but they really are very, very effective at their core mission, Greg, which is generational wealth. That was that was, the way it was described in the Lincoln Project internal discussions. A frequent quip from Schmidt, overheard by multiple people, was that the Lincoln Project was his vehicle to achieve generational wealth. This is from back in 2021. Now, one of the things I'm kind of struck by is the degree, so this came out in 2020, how little they were spending on actual advertising. There was a Showtime documentary made about them, which was you could tell it began trying to make them look like the ruthless, tough-minded, really effective, cunning guys who were going to take down Trump. And then by the time all the sex scandals came out, it became, maybe they're not such great guys. And you could kind of see that the shift in tone in the documentary at that point. But you would have figured this would have killed off the Lincoln Project. You would have figured people would, liberals would stop donating to it. I mean, if you're pulling for Trump and if you're pulling for Republicans, thank God people are still giving money to the Lincoln Project instead of using it in some way that actually do some good. Go build Steve Schmidt his summer home. Go build these guys all the, vacation homes that they want. Don't spend it on stuff that's actually going to, influence voters or anything like that. So in that sense, I suppose we should be thankful. But just kind of this recognition that, they are going on momentum of the reputation that was built during the Trump years. And it's 2024, and people are still writing checks to them as if they've done anything useful in the last 4 years. I'm almost kind of that's ridiculous, that's egregious, but Greg, how do we get in on this? This is, this is a really sweet deal, and just kind of recognizing that, Dick Morris, long after he had stopped being an effective and regularly employed consultant, and run around guaranteeing that Romney was going to win in a landslide. Remember that? That was pretty darn good. All but guaranteeing that Rubio was going to be Romney's running mate. And we probably remember his amazing book, Condi versus Hillary, the next great presidential race, which was published in 2007. Probably the most embarrassing title, only to be surpassed by In Trump We Trust by Ann Coulter, who then spent the next 4 years talking about how Trump had betrayed her and not actually done everything he said, hadn't built the wall, hadn't been tough enough on immigration and all that stuff. Once you've built your brand name large enough in politics, people will keep writing you checks out of habit. People there's a stunning level of momentum that can maintain the grift, apparently for many years, long after you've done anything of note. So this is an absolutely egregious, but also a little bit of a tip of the hat. I mean, I just want to, it's a little chef's kiss. Mwah. That is some fine grifting right there. That is, they still got, that is LeBron James of grifting. Still good many, many years into their career.
I guess that's nearly $12 million that could have gone to actual reputable
anything useful.
Campaign operations.
If the Harris campaign had spent it on staplers, it still would be more useful than giving it to,
Just to give you an example, the latest Lincoln Project video is about how Nicolas Maduro was inspired by Donald Trump's disputing of the 2020 election results for why he is refusing to step down in 2024.
That's the only reason Maduro could possibly want to stay in power. It never would have crossed his mind if Trump hadn't done that. Because we all know, if there's anybody you can trust, it's Nick Maduro.
That's right.
I would buy a used car from that man.
Apparently nobody remembers Juan Guaido. Remember that guy who won the previous election and Maduro still wouldn't leave? That was
Venezuela.
Before 2020.
Hugo Chavez, right? If there's anything, look, if you can't trust the word of a strong man from Venezuela, who can you trust? It's not just they run ads again. They run the dumbest possible argument. And for some reason, it's catnip to people. That's going to get Trump. I think there's a single vote. Well, I was going to vote for Trump because I liked his policies on the border and the immigration and cutting taxes and strong. But if Maduro got his ideas from him, that's. I wasn't bothered by January 6th. I wasn't worried about the convictions. I wasn't worried about COVID or any of that other stuff. No. It's the inspiring Maduro. That's a bridge too far.
The Lincoln Project is the graffiti inside a junior high bathroom stall. It doesn't actually affect anything, but it shows their level of intelligence, which is not very high. But
Greg,
except for making money.
No, not fair. Graffiti's creative.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. They are a huge help to us. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch Podcast. Follow us both on X. Jim is at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Tuesday and join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.